Dear students, greetings to all. In this module, we'll be continuing with our ongoing chapter, Chapter 6 of Biology, Life Processes. We will be discussing about heterotrophic mode of nutrition, that is, in human beings. So we'll be talking in detail about nutrition in case of human beings. Nutrition in human beings is basically referred to as the process of digestion, wherein the complex food substances are converted into simple soluble form. So it involves the breakdown of complex organic molecules into simpler inorganic substances. The components essential for human diet include water, carbohydrates, fats, minerals, and vitamins. The basic component parts of the digestive system include the teeth, which are required for biting, chewing the food during the food, and cutting down the food into pieces. Alimentary canal consists of esophagus, stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, rectum, and finally the anus, and also the digestive glands. So when we talk about the human digestive system, it basically comprises of the alimentary canal, which is a long tube with muscular walls, and the various digestive glands that open up to secrete their respective digestive secretions. Now let us talk about the process of human nutrition, which is heterotrophic in its mode. The process of human digestion includes the ingestion, which refers to the intake of food through the opening referred to as the mouth. The movement of food later down into the stomach involves the process of digestion. Majority of the carbohydrates, they are digested in the mouth itself. After digestion has taken place, it is followed by absorption, which is the movement of useful substances into the bloodstream. Assimilation involves the use of food for the growth, repair, and for the energy which is required to do various metabolic activities. The energy currency of the body is adenosine triphosphate, that is ATP. Finally, the last step of human nutrition involves egestion, that is removal of the undigested or the unused food which is waste from the body. This is the diagrammatic representation of the human alimentary canal, which is a 9-meter long tube. The alimentary canal basically includes the mouth. Inner to it is the oral cavity, the pharynx, which is a common opening for the respiratory and digestive system, the food pipe referred to as the esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and large intestine. The largest gland which is present in the body, that is liver, situated close to the stomach. Gallbladder carries the function of storage of bile. Leaf-like structure present at the base of the stomach is the pancreas. At the end, we have got the rectum that will help in the elimination of waste through the opening, which is referred to as the anus. Now, this is a detailed pictorial view of the human digestive system, which involves the opening, that is the mouth, presence of salivary glands, which help to break down starch into maltose, Pharynx guarded by epiglottis, which helps to prevent entry of food into the respiratory tract. The subdivision of the small intestine comprising of duodenum, jejunum, ileum, and the component parts of the large intestine comprising of cecum, colon, and rectum. At the base of the large intestine near the cecum, there is a part which is referred to, elongated part referred to as the appendix. In people who suffer from this appendicitis, it is operated. It is a vestigial organ which was used earlier so as to digest the cellulose. Now, because human beings, they eat the cooked food or the boiled food, there is as such no requirement of this vestigial organ referred to as the appendix. Moving on to the detailed discussion on the component parts of the alimentary canal, that is the mouth, followed by other important part, esophagus, later the movement of food into stomach, the gland liver which plays a major role in secretion of bile, the heterocrine gland pancreas, small intestine, and finally the large intestine and the opening, that is the anus. So we'll be discussing the function of each of the organs underlying the alimentary canal so as to understand the human digestive system in detail. Firstly, we'll talk about the mouth. So the mouth is the uppermost opening of the human digestive system, which is guarded by two soft movable lips. They open up into a chamber or a cavity which is referred to as the buccal cavity, as can be seen over here. Now this buccal cavity or the oral cavity, at the base it is grounded or bounded by palate, and on the upper side and the lower side there's the presence of the muscular tongue. Now when we are talking about this buccal cavity, it is important for us to discuss the presence of the salivary gland. They are present in the mouth. Salivary gland is an exocrine gland as it has duct and it releases its secretion in the mouth itself. That is, there is a very less distance between the site and the target of secretion of the enzyme, that is salivary amylase. Now, the function of the salivary amylase is to break down the starch into maltose. So we can see that the base is formed by the tongue. It's over here, the tongue. We are ticodons. We've got jaws where the teeth are embedded in the jaws, and the dental formula of human can be represented by 2, 1, 2, 3. That means the teeth, they basically comprise of incisors, later to it canines, premolars and the molars. Basically when we talk about, so there are 16 on the upper part and the 16 teeth on the lower part, thus forming a total of 32 teeth in a human adult. 32 permanent teeth are present. Now these salivary glands, we can see the types of salivary glands, that is the parotid salivary gland. They are present in front of the ear. Sublingual, they are located under the tongue. Submandibular, they lie deep in the mouth. Talking about the digestion in mouth, majority of the carbohydrate, it gets digested in the mouth itself. Now the saliva actually mixes with the starch, which is the polysaccharide. That's a type of, so when we talk about starch, so starch is basically a polysaccharide. So starch is a polysaccharide. Poly here refers to many and saccharide refers to sugar. Now this polysaccharide, that is starch, will break down into maltose, which is actually a disaccharide. So we can see that maltose is a disaccharide. Now when I use the term dia, it refers to 2 units of sugar. Saccharide is sugar. So these salivary glands, they'll produce the saliva. It will mix with the food and form the bolus. So here we can see that there is grinding of bolus by the teeth. We had discussed about the dental formula in the previous slide. So here will be carried out the mechanical digestion along with the enzymatic digestion at a specific pH of 6.8, temperature 37 degrees centigrade, which is required for the activity of salivary amylase, so as to break down starch into maltose. This is the pictorial view which helps us to understand that the starch, which is a polysaccharide which is formed out of combination of large units of monosaccharide. So in yellow, the circular structures which are represented, they are the monosaccharides. They join up together to form a polysaccharide. Poly means many. So here with the help of the enzyme, that is salivary amylase, the polysaccharide will break down into short oligosaccharides, and then finally into the disaccharide comprising of 2 units of sugar. After the food has got digested in the mouth, it will move into the pharynx. That's a common opening between the respiratory and digestive system. From the pharynx, the food will then move into the food pipe, which is referred to as the esophagus. So here we can see the direction of movement of food from the pharynx through the esophagus into the stomach. Now, the walls of the esophagus, they are lined up with smooth muscles. So they are lined up with smooth muscles, and these smooth muscles, they undergo contraction and relaxation. So now this process of contraction and relaxation of these smooth muscles, the movement is referred to as peristalsis. So it is referred to as peristalsis. It is the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the muscular walls of the stomach, which helps to push the food from the pharynx to the stomach. Thus, through the esophagus, that is the food pipe, the food finally moves into the stomach. Now this is what is peristaltic, that is peristaltic waves of contraction that they will push the food lower through the esophageal sphincter. Finally, it will reach into the C or the J-shaped structure, which is referred to as the stomach. So we can see that it is exhibiting peristalsis, and this yellow colored structure, that is bolus, where the food has been mixed up with the saliva. Before we discuss about the digestion of the food in the stomach, let us understand in detail the parts of stomach. The parts of stomach, the part of the esophagus that ends into the stomach, it is guarded by the sphincter muscles referred to as cardiac sphincter. Later to it is the part of the stomach which is referred to as the fundus. At the end is the pyloric sphincter, where the stomach will then open up into the part of the small intestine, that is duodenum. So there are 2 openings, one from the esophagus into the stomach and the other from stomach into the small intestine. So the primary opening, that's the cardiac sphincter. The opening from the stomach into the small intestine, there is pyloric sphincter, and the other part is referred to as the fundic part of the stomach, where it is lined up with smooth muscles, where the basic process of digestion will take place. The stomach is a wide C-shaped or J-shaped muscular sac which is present on the left side of the abdomen. The partially digested food reaches into the stomach from the mouth cavity through the pharynx and the esophagus. Now the further digestion of food takes place in the stomach. The stomach carries out basic 4 functions, that is storage of food, mechanical churning of food, the regulation of the flow of food into the food fiber, and the partial digestion of food. So basically, these functions are carried out with the help of the gastric glands, which are present in the stomach. The gastric gland basically comprises of, it secretes the HCl, the enzyme which is required for digesting the protein, that is pepsin, and the enzyme which brings, and the substance which brings about the lubrication, that is what is referred to as the mucus. So we can see the presence of mucus cell which provide lubrication to the food, and they will actually provide lubrication to the walls of the stomach. They'll prevent them from rupturing because of the churning process which is carried out in the stomach, because of which the muscular walls can rupture and it could lead to the process of bleeding from the walls of the stomach. Now, talking about the digestion in the stomach, it is regulated by the enzyme pepsin, which helps to digest the proteins into peptides and peptones. Finally, they'll be digested into the simplest form of the protein, that is the amino acid. Now, the enzymes, they require specific temperature and pH. So there's secretion of HCl in the stomach, which produces a pH of 2.2 that is actually required for the activity of the enzyme, that is pepsin. Enzymes, they are very specific for temperature and pH. So pepsin, it is present in the zymogen form in the body, that is in the form of pepsinogen. When the acidic conditions develop in the stomach by secretion of HCl, that is when the conditions become 2.2, then pepsinogen gets activated to form pepsin, and it helps to convert the proteins into peptides and peptones. Thus, the mechanical digestion through peristalsis as well as the chemical digestion by the secretion of enzyme pepsin, facilitated by the release of acid HCl and the secretion of mucus, is carried out. Talking about the liver, that's the largest gland which is present in the body. It carries out the secretion, it produces the bile. Bile basically consists of bile salts and bile pigments, and bile helps to break down, it helps to bring about the emulsification of fat, that is, it helps to break down the complex fat molecules into fatty acids and glycerol. The pancreas, which are the heterocrine gland, leaf kind of structure situated beneath the stomach. They produce the pancreatic lipase, which helps to break down fat, pancreatic amylase, which helps to break down carbohydrates, and trypsin, which helps to break down further proteins into peptides and peptones, and finally into amino acids. Thus, in the stomach, the breakdown of the carbohydrates, proteins and fats takes place. So the food then will move from the stomach into the small intestine. So in the pictorial view, it is depicted the step 1 which is taking place, that is emulsification of fats. Finally, the next step is hydrolysis of triglycerides. Finally, the dissolution of fatty acids and monoglycerides into micelles so as to produce mixed micelles. Thus, the stomach carries out the function of digestion of food, which is not complete as of yet. So through this module, we tried to garner concepts related to the human digestive system. We studied about the alimentary canal and how the digestion is facilitated by the release of digestive enzymes from the stomach and the release of salivary amylase. The process of complete digestion takes place in the small intestine, and finally the absorption in the large intestine, and then the elimination of waste. The remaining part related to digestion will be discussed in the next module. In this module, we had carried out the discussion of the digestion of food. how it takes place when the food reaches from the mouth to the stomach. Hopefully, you must have understood all the concepts related to the process of digestion of food up till the stomach. Thank you.